I went from living paycheck to paycheck to earning over $200,000 per year thanks to a full-time job, a side hustle, and smart money decisions. The secret? Leverage. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can use it to transform your finances too. Today, I still work a full-time job, but what truly changed my life is the money I make on the side through self-publishing low and medium content books on Amazon. That extra income has been a game changer. Because of it, I now consider myself financially free. Now, financial freedom means different things to different people, but for me, it's simple. I have no debt other than my mortgage. I have the funds to pay off that mortgage if I wanted to, but I would rather invest the money. I could quit my job tomorrow and my investments would cover my living expenses for years to come. However, I'm only 36 years old, and while I could technically stop working, I think it's a bit too early for that. Instead, my plan is to keep working, keep building, and keep investing so that my money continues to grow. Now, I'm not telling you this to brag, far from it. I'm sharing this because I want you to see what's possible with good money management, smart decisions, and leverage. And in this video, I'm going to break down the smart choices I've made over the last 10 years, choices that have allowed me to leverage my income, my time, and my money to reach financial freedom. Hopefully, by the end of this, you'll pick up a few ideas and insights that you can start applying to your own life. Now, let me take you back about 10 years to where this journey really started. I was still living at home with my mum at this point. The cost of buying a house, especially in outer London, was crazy expensive. Like most first-time buyers, I felt trapped. Saving a big enough deposit while covering normal living expenses felt almost impossible. Back then, a standard 2-bed flat in my area was going for around £225,000 or $270,000. And truthfully, 10 years ago, I had no savings and was living paycheck to paycheck, just like most people. But I reached a point where I knew I had to take control of my future. Around that time, I just landed a new job working on the railway, the same job that I still do today. Compared to my previous work as a plumbing contractor, this job brought me something I hadn't had in many years: security. You see, the problem with contracting was the unpredictability. Projects would finish and sometime I'd have no work for days or even weeks. And it was stressful. So I could never really plan ahead because I never knew how much money was coming in. Taking the railway job was a game changer. For the first time, I was on a consistent salary with stable, secure income. And that allowed me to set clear financial goals. With my partner, we set ourselves a target: save enough for a house deposit within 5 years. Now, we weren't frugal, but we were smart with our money. We cut out unnecessary expenses, and fortunately, I didn't have to pay my mum a huge amount of rent while living at home, which made it easier to save. One of the best financial decisions I made during that time was how I approached buying a car, something people often overlook. With the new railway job, my commute was about an hour each way, covering nearly 90 miles, 5 days a week. That's a lot of miles and a lot of potential cost. So I did what most people don't. I researched a lot. I looked into reliability, fuel economy, and overall cost of ownership. And after plenty of digging, I settled on a diesel Honda Civic, a car which is known for being solid, reliable, and great on fuel. But here's where the smart move came in. I bought it outright. No finance, no monthly payments, no interest. I saved up my money and I paid around £4,000 for the car. Admittedly, it wasn't perfect. There were cigarette burns on the seats and scratches on the paintwork. But I didn't care about that. It ran perfectly, and that's all that mattered. That decision paid off massively. The Honda was fantastic on fuel, doing around 65 to 70 miles per gallon, which saved me a fortune on my daily commute. Was it the best looking car on the road? Definitely not. But it was incredibly reliable. And if you've ever owned a car that breaks down regularly, you know just how expensive that can get. Japanese cars like Honda, Toyota, and Lexus have a reputation for reliability, and this car proved it. Over the next 7 years, the only expenses I had were standard wear and tear, brake pads, tires, a new battery here and there. Meanwhile, plenty of people I knew were spending thousands fixing their cars that looked great, but broke down constantly. Car repairs can wipe out savings fast, and I avoided all of that. At the time, most people I knew were paying around £300 per month on car finance deals. That's £3,600 per year. So let's run the numbers on my decision to buy the car outright. The purchase price was £4,000. I sold this car 7 years later for £1,000. So the total cost over the 7-year period was £3,000. That works out to about £35 per month over the entire period, a tenth of what financing a car would have cost me. And here's where leverage really comes in, because by avoiding finance, I kept that £300 per month in my pocket. Rather than handing it over to a lender every month, I was able to redirect that money towards my house deposit. Every pound saved on car payments was another pound pushing me closer to buying my first home. That's the kind of leverage that most people don't think about. It's not always about borrowing or investing. It's about making choices that free up your income so you can put it to work building your future. That car decision, it was one of my best early moves that I made. From there, things slowly started to snowball in my favor. Around the same time that I started my railway job, I decided to try my hand at a side hustle. I knew that if I wanted to speed up saving for a house, I needed to find ways to bring in extra money on top of my regular salary. That's when I came across something called matched betting. Now, I know it sounds like gambling, but it's not. In fact, matched betting is often described as risk-free betting. And once you understand how it works, it makes total sense. The main difference is this. Gambling means you're risking your money in hopes of winning. Matched betting means you're using free offers from betting companies to make guaranteed profit no matter what the outcome is. Matched betting is completely legal and tax-free in the UK. Now, I'll try and explain it simply, though I'll be honest, every time I've tried explaining this in person, people look at me like I'm speaking a different language. But here goes. So, betting companies are constantly offering sign-up bonuses to attract new customers. For example, a welcome offer might be bet £50, get a £50 free bet. And from these kind of welcome offers, you can extract profit. There are fancy calculators online that scan the different bookmaker odds, and you can bet against certain results, which ensures that you cover all angles, win, lose, or draw. So from a £50 qualifying bet, you will hedge against all results on a football match and come out with £48, which is a £2 loss. However, you then gain a £50 free bet from this, and with this free bet, you do the same thing and cover all angles. So whatever the result, win, lose, or draw, you could walk away with about £35 profit from the free bet. Now, this may not sound like a lot of money, but there were hundreds of different gambling websites with lots of different welcome offers and bonuses. So I hope that makes sense, but if it doesn't, you can Google it. It is by far the easiest way to make money in the UK. I'm not quite sure about other countries where gambling is a bit more restrictive, but I would definitely recommend doing it if you want to make an easy £1,000 or £2,000. However, it can get a little bit trickier after you've gone through all of the welcome offers from all of the different websites. There is a caveat to this. If you do have an addictive personality or have trouble with normal gambling, then obviously don't try this. So anyway, before I knew it, I'd made at least £8,000 tax-free from match betting in that first year. Not bad for a side hustle that didn't require any special skills, just time, patience, and a bit of discipline. Over the next 3 years, thanks to a combination of smart financial choices, living well below our means, and adding an extra income through side hustles, my partner and I managed to save enough for a house deposit, 2 years ahead of our 5-year goal. In 2017, we finally got the keys to our first home, a 4-bed Victorian house. It was a bit of a fixer-upper that needed a lot of love and work, but we didn't mind. We knew that it was a project that could add value over time. Looking back now, it's clear that we were able to leverage our money in the best possible way by making smart choices, avoiding lifestyle inflation, and staying laser focused on our goal of home ownership. It's also worth pointing out that both of us were working full-time back then. We didn't have kids yet, and we took full advantage of that period to build our savings as fast as possible. One thing that really helped, neither of us are materialistic. My partner's never cared about designer handbags or expensive shoes, and the same with me. I don't need £400 jackets, £100 t-shirts, and stuff like that. This made a huge difference. Buying unnecessary luxury items is one of the easiest ways to hold yourself back, especially when you're starting out and trying to build wealth. One mental trick that helped me curb spending was this. Whenever I wanted to buy something, I'd translate the price into hours worked. For example, let's say a pair of Nike trainers cost $220. If you earn $20 per hour, you would need to work 14 hours after factoring in tax just to pay for those shoes. That's 2 full days work gone just for a pair of trainers. When you think of it like that, buying stuff for the sake of it doesn't feel worth it anymore. And that mindset helped keep me disciplined while we saved. After buying the house, paying the deposit, legal fees, and setting aside a budget for furniture and repairs, our bank account was basically back to zero. But honestly, I was still happy because now we owned an asset, something that would likely grow in value over time. The alternative, of course, was renting. And that's what most people are forced to do, especially those born after 1980. Over the last decade, the average house price in England has risen to 8 times the average income. To put that in perspective, I believe on average in America, it's closer to 5 or 6 times the average income. Now, I'm not here to argue the pros and cons of renting versus owning. There are valid points on both sides, but I will say this. When we bought our house, our mortgage payment was £900 per month. Meanwhile, similar homes nearby were renting for £1,300 per month, a £400 difference every single month. That's a massive gap. And once you start renting, it's incredibly difficult to get onto the property ladder. Why? Because when you're spending £1,300 a month just on rent, plus car costs, fuel, groceries, insurance, and other bills, saving up for a deposit becomes almost impossible. It was tough to buy back then, and honestly, it's only gotten harder. Since COVID, the cost of everything has gone up. Food, utilities, rents, house prices, while wages haven't kept pace. Inflation has eaten into what little spare cash most households have these days. And that's exactly why getting ahead early, making smart choices, and leveraging every bit of your income is so important. The window of opportunity is closing for a lot of people. Back to the story. Over the next 2 years, my partner and I stayed laser focused. We lived below our means and plowed any extra money back into our home, renovating room by room and adding value wherever we could. Eventually, after completing most of the repair work, we had the house revalued. Now, we originally bought the house for £325,000. After 2 years of hard work, the valuation came back between £400,000 and £425,000. We had managed to add around £100,000 in value, spending roughly £20,000 on the renovations. Honestly, we were pleasantly surprised by how much value we created just by being smart with where we put our money and doing a lot of the work ourselves. On top of that, because we'd increased the equity in the house, we were able to remortgage and secure a better deal. Our loan to value ratio had improved massively, which of course reduced the lender's risk and gave us access to lower interest rates. For anyone unfamiliar, the lower your LTV, the better the mortgage rate you'll get. So when we bought the house, our LTV was high. If you only put down a 10% deposit, your LTV is 90%, which is risky for lenders. But after the revaluation, our LTV dropped to around 68%, making us a much safer bet. That reduction alone saved us money every single month. Financially, things were looking good. We were in a strong position, but the next chapter of our lives was about to begin. Shortly after that, my partner fell pregnant. Of course, we were over the moon, but once the excitement faded, a wave of financial pressure hit me like never before. Until that point, we both had good full-time jobs, no kids, and we were steadily building wealth. But babies change everything, especially financially. It's not just about the upfront costs like a pram, car seat, formula, nappies, clothes, and all of the other baby essentials. What really hit me was the thought of the loss of earnings. I wanted my partner to be able to take a full year off work after giving birth to bond with our child, not to rush back to work because of money. But maternity pay hardly covers much. And after that year off, we agreed for her to return to work for just 2 days a week so that we could avoid putting our child into daycare. That decision for her to cut down from 5 days a week to 2 days a week meant that we were going to be losing £1,000 per month from what we were used to living on. Suddenly, the financial pressure was real. For the 5 years before this, I'd been in control of my money, watching it grow steadily, and now I was staring down the barrel of losing a big chunk of our household income. So that's when I realized I needed to find another income stream, something that could replace my partner's lost earnings without forcing her to work more than what she needed to. So, like many of you have probably done, I started searching for ways to make money online, and I stumbled across self-publishing on Amazon. Now, I won't lie, I was skeptical at first, but the more I researched, the more I realized there was a real potential. So I took the plunge. I paid for a course to teach me the basics. Then I invested in mentoring from someone who was already successful in that space. That mentoring cost me about $1,800, a huge amount to hand over at that time. But because I had managed my money well and I had no debt outside of my mortgage, I was able to pay it without needing to borrow. And honestly, that $1,800 investment has changed my life. For most people, spending that kind of money to learn a new skill or business feels impossible, especially if you don't have the savings. You either can't afford it, or worse, you borrow and end up in debt. But this is exactly where leverage comes in. Because I'd made smart financial decisions leading up to this point, I was able to leverage my savings to speed up my learning and shortcut the trial and error phase. My mentor had already made the self-publishing mistakes, wasted time on things that didn't work, and figured out the strategies that did. That saved me years of struggling. So by paying him $1,800, I effectively shortened the time it took for me to see success. If I didn't have the money to pay him, I would have had to figure it out all by myself, which may have taken years. Plus, I may have given up on the business at any point if I faced poor sales or too many setbacks. And this is exactly what happens to most people. Now, let me show you the results of that $1,800 investment. Before self-publishing, I needed to find a way to replace £1,000 per month. That was my target. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that it would go as well as it did. Here you can see the growth in my self-publishing journey since 2019. And if we fast forward to December 2024, my self-publishing income peaked at over $20,000 in a single month, which is about £16,000. I'm not sharing this to brag. I'm sharing it because this is the power of good money management and using leverage wisely. Every small decision I made along the way, buying the Honda, avoiding unnecessary spending, investing in skills, compounded over time and led me to this moment. The reality is, if your daily decisions are poor, if you're always chasing instant gratification or taking on bad debt, you don't build this kind of momentum. In fact, it's the opposite effect. You will stagnate or you will fall deeper into debt. So your decisions can compound positively or negatively, and that is your choice. What's interesting is even after hitting these big numbers, I haven't really changed my lifestyle. I still live in the same house. I still live well below my means. I still drive a used car. Yes, it's a BMW now, but it was 6 years old when I bought it and it's still very fuel efficient. I've kept my railway job, and most importantly, I've reinvested my income back into my self-publishing business and into stocks and other investments. Once again, that's leverage. Using money to make more money. And that mindset has grown my net worth massively over the last few years. So that's my little story. But the truth is this. I'm really passionate about money management and achieving financial freedom. But because this channel is mostly about self-publishing, I haven't really spoken about it much until now. But I would love to start speaking more about this stuff because I genuinely believe that this is the stuff people need to hear. Schools don't teach you this. They don't teach you how to manage your money, leverage your income, or grow wealth. This is why most people live paycheck to paycheck and struggle. Let me know if this is something you'd like to see more of. You've probably heard me mention the concept of marginal gains before, and that is the idea that tiny improvements made consistently over time can lead to huge results. This entire story is a perfect example of that. Tiny decisions, daily discipline, smart investments, all compounding over time to create a completely different life. Okay, so this video is already super long as obviously I really love talking about this stuff. So I won't drag on too much longer, but there are many other ways that I've used my money to make more money by leverage. And very quickly, here are a couple more examples of leverage. By gaining knowledge and success in self-publishing, I was able to pass on this knowledge and create courses teaching others, which became another income stream. I invested in my partner. I paid for her to retrain, offering beauty services like semi-permanent makeup, Botox, and other beauty services. Her earnings from this have paid me back for my investment, and she is earning more than she did before, which is not only rewarding for her to be her own boss, but she is helping to grow our combined net worth and for us as a family to become even more financially secure. So to wrap things up, it is never too late to change your life. Try to avoid purchasing things that you don't really need, like $5 Starbucks or takeaway food multiple times per week. Pay off debt if you have it. The higher the interest, the quicker you need that gone. And I'm not counting mortgage debt when I say this. Create an emergency savings fund, which would be the amount of money you would need to cover your share of expenses for 6 months. This is just in case you lose your job or you're faced with a big unexpected expense like a big car repair or needing to replace your boiler, etc. Having that emergency savings fund which you can dip into will stop you taking out high interest loans or credit cards, which will only take you further away from your financial freedom. Live below your means, which means spending less than you earn each month. This will allow you to continue to save and then invest after you have your 6 months emergency fund. Focus on trying to increase your income. That could be actively looking for a better paying job or chasing a promotion, or you can do what I did and try to find a side hustle that can bring you an additional income. By increasing your income and not increasing your spending, you gain a larger cushion of money each month. This not only helps to reduce stress, but it allows you some flexibility and you can invest more money into yourself, your side hustle, or investing in the stock market, property, etc. Over time, your net worth should compound and bring you ever closer to financial freedom. Of course, this isn't financial advice. I'm not a professional. This is simply what I've learned from my own experiences. But if it helps even one person think differently about money, leverage, and their future, then it was worth sharing. Remember, it's the small decisions you make daily that shape your future. Start today, leverage what you have, make smart choices, and watch how your life changes.